fractions pre-assessment. Show all work on each example. 6K and 2A. I can find characteristics of rational functions including asymptotes, domain, and range. The type of function this one is an odd rational. Odd rationals will look like this or like this. Even rationals will either be like this or like this. The vertical asymptote is the vertical line that the graph almost touches but not quite. And it will be at x equals -2. From that, we can see that the domain is going to be all real numbers except x cannot equal -2. In interval notation, it will look like this. Negative infinity to -2 union -2 to infinity. Now the horizontal asymptote is this one right here. On the left and the right, the graph approaches that y value, but it doesn't touch it. It can possibly touch it in the middle though. This was going to be a y equals -1. From this, we can find that the range is all real numbers except y can't equal -1 in this case. Here's our interval notation for this. For the range, if it is an even function, you'll only have one interval. When it's an odd function, you'll have both intervals. Again, -1 could possibly be included if it was not a standard function here. Like, you'll see more of those in pre-cal. Holes. So it looks like there is a hole right here. When you graph these, it will not automatically show you the hole for most software. For this one, there's going to be a hole at, this coordinate point is -3 and then -2. The x-intercept is right here. It is at -1, 0. And then the y-intercept is right there. It looks like it's in between 0 and -1. So it's about 0, -0.5. Let's look at our even one. So this one is an even rational function. We have a vertical asymptote going down right here, and it is at x equals -1. The domain is going to be all real numbers except x can't equal -1. In interval notation, it would look like this. For the horizontal asymptote, it's this line right here going across on the left side. It looks like it's approaching 4, and on the right side it's approaching 4. That's our horizontal asymptote, y equals 4. So the range is going to be from -infinity to 4. Notice the graph does not go above that y equals 4. We have a hole right here. And that coordinate point appears to be -2 for the x, and then for y, it looks like it's 3. So the hole is at -2, 3. The x-intercepts, we have 2, one right here, one right here. It looks like about negative 1.5 comma 0 and negative 0.5 comma 0. And then for the y-intercept, we have one right here. It is at 0 comma 3. (6k) and 2a, I can find characteristics of rational functions including asymptotes, domain, and range. Identify characteristics of the function. F of x equals 6 times x plus 2 times x minus 2 all over 2 times x plus 2 times x plus 1. Okay, the first thing you want to do is see if anything cancels out to find your whole. X plus 2 and x plus 2 are the same, they cancel out. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Our reduced fraction is 3 parentheses x minus 2 over x plus 1. So after we've simplified our expression, we can find our vertical asymptote. We'll set the denominator equal to 0 to find your VA. So we have x plus 1 equals 0, so x is going to equal negative 1. The domain is going to be all real numbers except x cannot equal negative 1. But also you want to set the whole equal to 0 as well. So we have x plus 2 equals 0. X cannot equal negative 2 either. So the domain's all real numbers except for the VAs and the wholes. In interval notation, we would write it like this. Negative infinity comma negative 2, union, negative 2 to negative 1, union, negative 1 to infinity. For the horizontal asymptote, we have 3x minus 6 at the top and then 1x plus 1 at the bottom. Since the degrees are the same, we're going to divide the leading coefficients. Before you do that, you need to make sure that the polynomials at the top and the bottom have the same degree. So for example, if we had 3x squared minus 6 over 1x plus 1, you would want to add a 0x squared right there. This one would not have a horizontal asymptote because 3 divided by 0 is undefined. Now, if you had something more like this, if we had the x squared down here, we'd want to add it at the top. 0 divided by 1 would be 0. So in that case, the horizontal asymptote would be at y equals 0. Since we have the same degree for both of these, we don't have to do that on this particular problem. 3 divided by 1 is going to be 3. So your horizontal asymptote is at y equals 3. When you're finding the range of these, go ahead and graph it. Now once we've graphed it, notice that it appears that the y is never going to be that 3. So we could say that the range is all real numbers except for y can't equal 3. So our range would be from negative infinity to 3, union 3 to infinity. Again, it is possible for the horizontal asymptote to be a part of the range. So you will want to graph these just to verify that. Okay, the whole, we know that it's going to be at negative 2. Now for the y value, after you have your simplified expression, you're going to plug that number into x to evaluate. So we have 3 times negative 4 all over negative 1. So negative 12 over negative 1, that's just 12. So our whole would be at negative 2 comma 12. To get the x value, you see what factors cancel out, set those equal to 0. To get the y coordinate, after you have your simplified expression, plug in the x value that you got. Now to find the x-intercept, you want to set the top part equal to 0 after it's simplified. So then we have x minus 2 equals 0. Your x-intercept is going to be at 2 comma 0. Now for the y-intercept, after you have the simplified fraction, let x equal 0. So I have 3 times 0 minus 2 all over 0 plus 1. That's going to give you negative 6. Our y-intercept is 0 comma negative 6. (6k) and 2a. I can find characteristics of rational functions including asymptotes, domain, and range. Identify characteristics of the function f of x equals 8 times x minus 2 times x plus 2 all over 2 times x minus 2 times x minus 1 times x plus 1. Alright, the first thing you want to do is try to simplify this. The x minus 2's will cancel, so we have a whole at x equals 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And so we have 4 parentheses x plus 2 all over x minus 1 times x plus 1. So we could write this right here for the whole. We know that the x coordinate is 2. To get the y coordinate, you're going to plug that into the simplified expression. So 4 parentheses 2 plus 2 all over 2 minus 1 times 2 plus 1. That's going to be 4 times 4, that's 16, and then 1 times 3. So our whole is at 2 comma 16 over 3. Our vertical asymptotes, we're going to set the denominators equal to 0, so we have x minus 1 equals 0, x plus 1 equals 0. We have 2 vertical asymptotes, one x equals negative 1 and x equals positive 1. So you have 3 excluded values in the domain. So the domain's all real numbers except x cannot equal negative 1, positive 1, or positive 2. Here's the interval for this. So negative infinity to negative 1, union, negative 1 to 1, union, 1 to 2, union, 2 to infinity. So we have 4 intervals this time. For the horizontal asymptote, we have 4x plus 8 at the top, and we have x squared minus 1 in the denominator. They do not have the same degree, so let's make it so. So we're going to put a plus 0x squared at the top. 0 divided by 1 equals 0. So your horizontal asymptote is at y equals 0. Now the reason why I didn't ask you to find the range of this is because there will be more excluded values than just the horizontal asymptote. In fact, the horizontal asymptote, the y will actually go through it. Right here. You'll have more examples like that when you get to pre-cal. X-intercept. So for the x-intercept, you want to set the numerator equal to 0. So we have x plus 2, that's going to equal 0. x equals -2. So your x-intercept is -2, 0. Now for the y-intercept, we're going to set x equal to 0 with our simplified expression and then evaluate. So we have 4 parentheses 0 plus 2 all over 0 minus 1 times 0 plus 1. That's going to be 8 over -1. That equals -8. So your y-intercept is at 0, -8. 6G. I could describe transformations of rational functions. Select all the transformations that occurred from f of x equals 1 over x to g of x equals -9.2 over x plus 3 minus 4. So let's review our transformations. So we're going to have a over x minus h plus k. If a, the absolute value of it, is larger than 1, there's a vertical stretch. If the absolute value of a is less than 1, there's a vertical shrink, a vertical compression. If a is negative, we have a reflection. If a is positive, there's no reflection. If we have minus h, it goes to the right. If we have a plus h, it goes to the left. If we have a plus k, it goes up. A minus k, it goes down. So from that, we could go ahead and look at this. We have a negative right here, so that's a reflection. This was bigger than 1, so that means it's a vertical stretch. We have a plus 3 here, so this could go left. And then we have a minus on the outside, so this could go down. And then from there, you would just check each of those off. So there was a reflection. There was a vertical stretch. It goes down, and it goes to the left. 7F. I could simplify rational expressions. Match each type of number using this word bank. 4 over 4. 4 over 4 equals 1. If you have a 1 fraction, that's called a unity fraction. 3 over 4, that is a proper fraction. 4 over 3, that is an improper fraction. Proper fraction is when the top number is smaller and the bottom number is larger. Improper fractions is where you have the larger number at the top. 0.75. That is considered standard form. Sometimes they say as a decimal. 75%. Well, it has percents in the way that's read. 7.5 times 10 to the negative 1 power. That is scientific notation. Three over 2 times 2. We have repeated multiplication written out that is called expanded. 1 and 1/3. That is a mixed fraction. (7F) I can simplify rational expressions. Simplify completely. 42 over 105. Well, we can't divide by 2 because these are not both even. 42, 4 plus 2 is 6, 1 plus 5 is 6. That means they both divide by 3. So we could divide each of these by 3. 42 divided by 3 is 14. 105 divided by 3 is 35. 14 over 35. It looks like both of these could be divided by a 7. 14 divided by 7 is 2. 35 divided by 7 is 5. Our simplified fraction is 2/5. The numbers that you want to try to divide out is 2, 3, 5, 7. 2 if they're even. 3 if digits equal a number that goes into 3. 5 if it's a 5 or a 0, and then 7, you'll probably just want to check that one. 7f, I could simplify rational expressions. Simplify completely. 6n squared over 4n to the 1/2. 6 over 4, you could divide each of those by 2. We have 3 over 2. N squared over n to the 1/2 is the same thing as n to 2 minus 1/2. It's going to be 2 over 1 minus 1/2. So let's multiply the first fraction by 2 and the second fraction by 1, so you'll have the same denominator. So that's n to 2 minus 1 all over, or not 2 minus 1, 4 minus 1 over 2. And that'll be n to the 3/2. So your simplified expression will be 3 times n to the 3/2 over 2. There's some other ways that they might write this as well. So they could have 3n times the square root of n over 2 as well. So either of those would be acceptable answers. Seven F, I could simplify rational expressions. Simplify completely. 10v squared minus 60v all over v squared minus 7v plus 6. The first thing you would do is factor and then cancel. We could take 10v out of each of those top two terms in the numerator, and then we're left with v minus 6. And at the bottom, we have 6 and negative 7. Looks like both numbers are going to be negative. Negative 6 and negative 1. Negative 6 times negative 1 is positive 6. Negative 6 plus negative 1 is negative 7. So we have v minus 6 times v minus 1. It looks like something's going to cancel here. It's the v minus 6. So we have excluded values. V cannot equal 6 or 1. So then we have 10v over v minus 1. That's our simplified expression with excluded values of vk equals 6 or 1. A, 10c, and 7c. I could divide rational expressions. Find the oblique asymptote. X squared minus 13x plus 31 all over x minus 6. To do this, we're going to use synthetic division. Break down the 1. 1 times 6 is 6. Negative 13 plus 6 is going to be -7. -7 times 6 is -42. Our remainder is -11. When the remainder is not 0, the quotient is the oblique asymptote. So we have an oblique asymptote at y equals 1x minus 7. (7f) I can simplify rational expressions. 6k and 2a. I can find characteristics of rational functions including asymptotes, domain, and range. Simplify completely, then identify the characteristics. 7x squared minus 18x plus 8 all over x minus 2. Let's factor the top. 7 times 8 is 56. The bottom number is -18. We will find two numbers that multiply to 56 and they add to -18. So we know both numbers have to be negative. Let's list out the factors of 56. So it looks like -14 and -4 will work here. Let's divide each of these by 7 because a is not 1. And so you have the factors x minus 2 and then 7x minus 4 all over x minus 2. So the x minus 2's are going to cancel. And you're left with 7x minus 4. The x-intercept, we're going to set the simplified numerator equal to 0. Add 4, divide by 7. So x is going to equal 4/7. The excluded value, x cannot equal 2. There's a hole there. Horizontal asymptote. We have 7x minus 4 all over 1. They're not the same degree. Let's make it so. So we have 0x plus 1 here. 7 divided by 0 is undefined. So that means there's no horizontal asymptote. There's also not a remainder when you divide these, so there's no oblique asymptote neither. 7f, I can simplify rational expressions. Simplify completely. V squared minus 13v plus 42 over 2v minus 14 divided by v squared minus 4v minus 60 all over 2. The first thing you want to do is change this into a multiplication problem. Keep the first fraction, change the operation to multiplication, and then flip the second fraction. Let's just rewrite it like that. Now from here, we do not want to start multiplying yet. If we do that, that will have a lot of unnecessary steps that you can avoid. The next thing you want to do is factor. And cancel to find holes. So let's go ahead and factor these. So the first one, it looks like we have v minus 7 and v minus 6. -6 times -7 is 42. -7 plus -6 is -13. At the bottom, we could take out a 2. So we're left with v minus 7. And then we have 2. And then let's factor the bottom right-hand side. So negative 60 and negative 4. Let's see, we have 10, or negative 10, and then positive 6. Negative 10 times 6 is negative 60. Negative 10 plus 6 is negative 4. A is 1, so you could just go from there. V minus 10, and then V plus 6. From here, let's see what cancels. The V minus 7's cancel, and the 2's cancel. So now we're going to write our answer. V minus 6 all over V minus 10 times V plus 6. Usually they'll want you to keep your answer in factored form at the bottom, and they'll want you to multiply and simplify in the numerator. So from here we have excluded values. V cannot equal 7, that's a whole. And then V cannot equal 10 or negative 6, those are vertical asymptotes. Seven F, I can simplify rational expressions. Simplify completely. R plus 3 times R minus 2 over R minus 2 times R minus 6 times 7R times 6 minus R all over R plus 3. Well, everything is already factored, and so what you could do next is simplify by canceling out the like factors. These are exactly the same. These are exactly the same. These two look similar, the 6 minus R and the R minus 6. You could factor out negative 1 out of the top. If you did that, you had negative 6 plus R. And that's the same thing as R minus 6. All over R minus 6. So those also cancel. So you're left with negative 7R. And your excluded values is R cannot equal negative 3, 2, or 6. Those are all going to be wholes. Seven F, I can simplify rational expressions. Simplify completely. B plus 4 over 7B plus 3 plus B plus 5 over 7B plus 3. These have the same denominator, so we could just go ahead and combine like terms. We have B plus 4 plus B plus 5 all over 7B plus 3. So then we have 2B plus 9 all over 7 parentheses B plus 3. B can't equal negative 3. That's our simplified expression. 7F, I can simplify rational expressions. Set up the problem with least common multiple to get common denominators. 3 over 2n minus 3n over 2n plus 6. The least common denominator here would be 2n times n plus 3. Basically, we could rewrite this as 3 over 2n minus 3n over 2n plus 3. Now from here, we'll see what's missing on both of the denominators. In the first fraction, we still need n plus 3. We want to multiply by the unity fraction, n plus 3 over n plus 3. And then for the second fraction, we're missing an n. So we're going to multiply by the unity fraction, n over n. So you multiply these by n's, and you multiply the first fraction by n plus 3. Now for this problem, we're just saying it up. We're not solving anything or simplifying or anything like that. Let's look at the next one. Simplify completely. 2 over 5k minus k minus 3 over k plus 2. So our least common denominator here would be 5k and k plus 2. We're going to multiply the first fraction by k plus 2 over k plus 2. And then we're going to multiply the second fraction by 5k over 5k. So let's multiply those. We get 2k plus 4 and then minus 5k squared minus 15k. And that's all over 5k times k plus 2. Alright, let's distribute that negative into each of those two terms and then combine like terms. We have negative 5k squared plus 15k plus 2k plus 4, all over 5k times k plus 2. We can add these two together to get 17k. And so then we have our answer here. Negative 5k squared plus 17k plus 4 all over 5k parentheses k plus 2. From there you would see if the top part could factor, if they would cancel out with anything. In this case, it doesn't appear like that would happen, so this would be it. This is your answer. Your excluded values is k cannot equal 0 or negative 2. Those are vertical asymptotes. (7g) I could change between exponential and radical forms. Match each equivalent form using this word bank. So we have the square root of x. That is the same thing as x to the 1/2 power. This one. The next one we have x. X would be the same thing as the square root of x squared. The third root of x's 6th power. That's going to be x to the 6 over 3 power. That equals x to the 2nd power. And then we have x to the 1/3 power. That is the third root of x to the 1st power. 6i, I can solve rational equations. Solve the proportion. 12 over 30 equals 1 over x. When there's an equal sign in between two fractions, you could cross multiply. Only do this when there's an equal sign. Don't do this when there is like a plus sign or a minus sign or a multiplication symbol. So then you have 12x equals 30. Divide each side by 12. X equals 30 over 12. Let's reduce that. We could divide each of those by 2. 15 over 6. We could divide each of those by 3. So we have x equals 5 over 2. I can solve rational equations. In a study, it was found that consuming over 13.5 grams of sugar per pound of body weight would be considered lethal. A certain extra large drink has 146 grams of sugar in it. If a person weighs 132 pounds, how many drinks would be considered the lethal amount if only considering sugar consumption? All right, so it says 13.5 grams per pound of body weight. So we're going to have 13.5 for each pound. The person weighs 132 pounds, so we're going to multiply those together. So that's 1,782. That's how many grams of sugar. And then if each drink has 146 grams of sugar, divide the two to find how many drinks total. That's going to equal about 12.2. And if you round it to the nearest whole number, we'd have 12 drinks. A.2d. I can formulate and solve equations involving direct variation. 6L. I can formulate and solve inverse variation. Match each variation. Assume K is the constant of proportionality and Y is the variable that varies directly, inversely, jointly, etc. Direct variation. The formulas for that would be Y equals Kx or K equals Y over X. Indirect variation is Y equals K over X or K equals X times Y. Joint variation is Y equals KXZ or K equals Y over XZ. And then combined variation is Y equals KX over Z or K equals YZ over X. In addition to this, you could also raise the X to some power. It might not necessarily be linear. They might say that it is, for example, a square, so that you would have a 2. Or if it was cubic, you would have a 3. Same thing for the z's. You could have some other exponent there. A.2d. I can formulate and solve equations involving direct variation. If 100 micrograms of vitamin B12 is 1,667% of the daily value, how many micrograms is 100% of vitamin B12? So this would just be a direct comparison here. So if we have 100 micrograms, and that's 1,667%, what would it equal for 100%? So we could just call this X. So from here, you can multiply each side, cross multiply. So we have 100 equals 16.67x. Let's divide each side by 16.67. So x is about 6 micrograms. (6L) I can formulate and solve inverse variation. Samantha spends 32 hours on screen time, non-studying activities, and 18 hours on studying each week. If the amount of time spent on screen time varies inversely with the amount of time studying, find the amount of time Samantha will spend on screen time if she studies 20 hours a week. So this would be the Y, and then this is going to be the x. It's going to be inversely, so we're going to use the formula y equals k over x. So we're going to find k first. So it's 32 hours for screen time, so we're going to say 32 equals k over 18. Let's multiply each side by 18 to find k. And let's put that in, 32 times 18. 576. So k is going to equal 576. Now we want to figure out what the screen time will be if she studies for 20 hours a week. So that'd be 576 divided by 20 is going to be your answer. So we're going to divide that by 20, and then we get 28.8. So 28.8 hours of screen time per week. 6H. I can formulate rational equations from real-world situations. 6J. I can determine the reasonableness of a solution to a rational equation. And 6I. I can solve rational equations. Jenny could oil the lanes of a bowling alley in 8 hours. Paul could oil the same lanes in 10 hours. If they worked together, how long would it take them? The general formula for work will be 1 over rate 1 times time plus 1 over rate 2 times that same time equals 1 whole job. And if there was 3 people, you would have 1 over rate 3, and so on. So in this case, the first rate is going to be Jenny's rate. It's 8 hours for that. And then rate 2, that's Paul, and it's 1 out of 10. So every 10 hours, there's 1 done. And we're doing 1 whole alley. So if we put in the equation, we have 1 over 8t plus 1 over 10t equals 1. We're going to solve for t because they want to know how much time it would take for them working together. We want to have the same denominator, so we want to get 40 here. 8 times 5 is 40, and then 10 times 4 is 40. So let's rewrite this. We have 5t over 40 plus 4t over 40 equals 1 whole. Let's multiply everything by 40 to get rid of the fractions. We have 5t plus 4t equals 40. 9t equals 40. Divide each side by 9. T equals 40 over 9, which is about 4.44 hours. "18 kilograms of fruit salad was made by combining 6 kilograms of sliced peaches, which cost $5 a kilogram, with 12 kilograms of sliced bananas, which cost $2 per kilogram. Find the cost per kilogram of the mixture." Here's our general formula for this. X plus Y equals the whole Z. And then for the other equation, we have rate 1 times X plus rate 2 times Y equals the rate of the mixture times Z. So from here, we know that 18 kilograms is the total. That's going to be Z. Combining 6 kilograms with 12 kilograms. That's your X. That's your Y. The $5 per kilogram is the first rate. It's the rate for X. And then $2 per kilogram is the rate for Y, so R2. What we want to find is the rate for the mixture. So let's plug this in. We have 6 plus 12 equals 18. Well, there's nothing here to solve, so this is not going to be a system. It's just going to be one linear equation. And then we have rate 1, so that's 5 times x, which is 6, plus rate 2, which is 2, times our y, which is 12, equals the other rate, which we don't know, times 18. Okay, so then we have 30 plus 24 equals 18 times something. Okay, let's add those together. 54 equals 18 RM. Divide each side by 18. And we get 3. So our answer is $3 per kilogram of the mixture. Shannis left the mall and drove towards the lake. 2 hours later, Alberto left, driving 16 miles per hour faster in an effort to catch up to her. After 3 hours, Alberto finally caught up. What is Shannis's average speed? For this one, we want to make a strip diagram. So we'll make a strip diagram for Shannis. And we'll make a strip diagram for Alberto. So for Shannis, it looks like she went for 2 hours. And then after that, that's when Alberto started leaving. It took him 3 hours to catch up. So if it took 3 hours to catch up, that means that she was going for 3 more hours here. So this is when Alberto was catching up, and then at the bottom, those are the 3 total hours that he did. So Shannis was driving at a constant rate every hour. Well, for the average. And then Alberto is going to be going 16 miles per hour faster on each of those. So for this was going to be 5R, and then this one is 3R plus 48. We're going to set those equal to each other to figure out what Shannis's average speed is. So if 5R equals 3R plus 48. Subtract 3R from each side. 2R equals 48. Divide by 2. R equals 24. Let's look at the last one. Find the partial fraction decomposition of the expression. We have negative x squared plus x minus 12 all over x plus 3 times x minus 3. We can rewrite this as ax plus b over x plus 3 plus cx over x minus 3. Now, we want to solve for a, b, and c. Let's get rid of the fractions first. So we'll multiply everything by x plus 3 and times x minus 3. We have negative x squared plus x minus 12 equals ax plus b times x minus 3 plus cx x plus 3. let's multiply these with FOIL. We have negative 1x squared plus 1x minus 12 equals ax squared plus, or actually minus, 3ax plus bx minus 3b plus cx squared plus 3cx. Alright, from here, let's group the x squareds together, the x's together, and the constants together. So a and c, so a plus c, that's our x squared terms. And then plus our x terms, negative 3a, and then b, and then 3c, and then our constant terms, minus 3b. Now, x squared has to equal negative 1. The a plus c has to equal negative 1. The x has to equal 1, and then the constant has to equal negative 12. From here, we could solve and set up a system of equations. A plus c equals negative 1. Negative 3a plus b plus 3c equals 1. And then negative 3b equals negative 12. We can solve for b pretty easily here. The third equation, divide each side by negative 3. b equals 4. On the first equation, let's solve for either a or c. Let's solve for a. A is going to equal negative c minus 1. We'll use substitution to sub in the a and the b that we found to find c. So negative 3 times negative c minus 1 plus 4, which is b, plus 3c equals 1. Okay, let's distribute, combine like terms, and then solve for c. We have 3c plus 3 plus 4 plus 3c equals 1. 6c plus 7 equals 1. Subtract 7 from each side. 6c equals negative 6. Divide each side by 6. c equals negative 1. Let's plug that back into the first equation to get a. So a equals negative 1 minus 1. That equals 1 minus 1, that's 0. A equals 0. So if we go back up here at the top, we'll plug in our found a, b, and c. So then let's plug that in. 0x is just 0. So we have 4 at the top over x plus 3 plus negative x over x minus 3. We could also write this with the minus sign in the middle. And then this is our decomposed fraction. 4 over x plus 3 minus x over x minus 3.